Hello student, my name is Gaetam Fanta. Today we are going to see History Grade 11 Unit 10 Capitalism and the Growth of Democracy. Today's lesson it mainly concerns the Napoleonic era and its consequence. You will be able to list the achievement of Napoleon in France, explain how Napoleon was overthrown from the power. Let us see, this is a picture of Napoleon Bonaparte. The meaning of Bonaparte. Bonaparte is the French and Italian surname. Bona means good. Parte means solution or match. The Napoleon Bonaparte, starting from 1799 up to 1855, he ruled France and different provinces of Europe. Who was Napoleon, student? Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769 in Ajaccio on the island of Corsica in the Mediterranean Sea. His parents were the member of Italian noble family, but Napoleon was an ambitious, popular and successful leader in the European history. He was served an artillery officer in the French army when the French erupted in 1789. By the way, the family tree of Napoleon was traced back to Italian noble family. Then he was born in Ajaccio. He received his early education, especially military education, and became second lieutenant at the age of 16. Mind you, student, at the age of 16, Napoleon Bonaparte got second lieutenant in the French army. He had won favor with revolutionary government by a victory against British, Spanish, and successfully defeated the National Convention from attacked by the bomb. Then on 1796, Napoleon was given command of fighting against Austria in the northern part of Italy. Then Napoleon defeated the Austrian army easily. Then Napoleon persuaded the Austrians to make peace by allowing them to have vents, but Austrian agreed to surrender Austria, Netherlands or Belgium to France. Then permit of most of northern Italy to be divided into little republics under Francis or under France's protection. Prussia as well as Holland made peace treaty with Napoleon Bonaparte. Britain remained the only powerful enemy of France. France lacked the sea power. On the other side, Britain had sea power. France lacked sea power, needed to make a direct attack upon the British Isles. The British Isles in the different provinces of Europe. So, what was the measure of Napoleon to struggle Great Britain at the time? Napoleon persuaded directly in the next best thing for France would to be conquer Egypt and Syria in the eastern Mediterranean region. By this action or such move of Napoleon would strike below as the British trade in the Far East. In the different measure of Napoleon, he against the trade relationship of Great Britain with outside world in the eastern part. The Napoleon campaign in Egypt and Syria was successful, but Napoleon campaign in Egypt and Syria were not successful entirely. He won victories by land, but British fleet under Admiral Nelson destroyed his fleet and forced to him to return to France. The French people had heard much about Napoleon's victories and little about his defeat. Then the French people, when he came back to France, he accepted us a hero of France. He accepted us a hero in France because most of the battle was ended by the victory of Napoleon Bonaparte, but there was little defeat, especially in the war with Great Britain. In 1799, Napoleon overthrew the Directory and he proclaimed a new constitution for France. He proclaimed new constitution for France and he overthrew the Directory on 1799. Then Napoleon, he became the first consuls. He assisted by other two consuls. The two consuls aid Napoleon starting from 1799. The first consul controlled all government body. Then France remained republic. France remained a republic, but all power is in the hand of a military dictatorship leader called Napoleon Bonaparte. Then in 1802, onwards Council for Life. Starting from 1799 up to 1802, he was first consul. Starting from 1802 onwards, he became consul for life, assisted by two other consuls. He became the first consul, 1799 up to 1804. Then he showed a genius in both military and government affairs. A new alliance, especially from Russia, from Austria, Great Britain, and certain similar states had been formed to drive French army from Germany, Italy, and Netherlands. But Napoleon smashed the alliance against the French and gained all part of especially Germany and west of Rhine River. All area in the west of Rhine River under the control of Napoleon Bonaparte. He defeated the Allied power. The Allied power that includes Russia, Austria, Great Britain, and certain similar states. He extended France's influence over Italy, over Holland, Switzerland. Then he expanded the France territory into vast area. He even forced Great Britain to make peace starting from 1802. Then 1804, he became Emperor of France. He called himself, I am the Emperor of France, starting from 1804. Another alliance was organized to struggle against Napoleon Bonaparte. This group was Great Britain, Austria, Russia, Sweden, the principal members of the alliance. Napoleon displayed his greatest genius and on his greatest victories. Then he scored the greatest victories. So most of Europe, directly or indirectly under the control of Napoleon Bonaparte. Then Britain was not defeated because of its island position and its superiority in the naval power. During the time, Great Britain was superior in the naval power and island position, especially different islands. By the way, the map of Great Britain, the collection of different islands. The British fleet led by or commanded by Lord Nelson had crushed the French fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. At the Battle of Trafalgar, the British force defeated Napoleon in the coast of Spain. This victory not only saved England from French invasion, but it gave conquered by European new power. The other one, what was the solution of Napoleon Bonaparte to struggle against Great Britain? Napoleon declared continental system. Continental system means the blockade designed by Napoleon to paralyze Great Britain through the destruction of British commerce in the East. The decrees of Berlin in 1806 and Milan in 1807 proclaimed a blockade. The continental system made aim to blockade the British trade with other countries. Then Napoleon gave a chance to build up its own manufacturing and industry in France. And this continental system also mainly concerned on the neutral state. The neutral state and the French alliance were not trade with Great Britain. No one involved in the trade relation with Great Britain. This decision was decided by Napoleon Bonaparte, 1806 and 1807. By 1810, the French Empire itself had been extended to include the vast French Empire includes Belgium, Holland, West Germany, northwestern Italy, part of what is now Yugoslavia, Spain, Poland, Switzerland, Austria, Prussia, Denmark, Norway, even Russia. Caesars had been obliged the promised aid of Napoleon. Generally, Emperor Napoleon dominated the different territory of European countries. That Napoleon, one of the world's greatest military of the time, to control Europe, Napoleon gave the throne for his relatives and favorite generals. During the time, the grand soldiers of Napoleon Bonaparte, about 600,000 men, my Hindu student. In the early 19th century, Napoleon had about 600,000 men in the different parts of his empire. Using this force, he captured different provinces of Europe. Let us see the map of Europe. His initial at France, he expanded the French influence into Germany and up to Russia, in the west up to England, Spain, up to the Mediterranean Sea, Italy. Those area was monopolized by Napoleon Bonaparte. This was the French Empire. the French Empire during the reign of Napoleon Bonaparte. Starting from France, he expanded into wide area. Generally, Napoleon had problem of his own. In addition to his strong side, Napoleon had their own problems. He had not only British Army and Navy to continue with, but the population of the countries he had overrun. At that time, the French armies had been welcomed as a liberator by the common people of Holland, Belgium, Germany, and Italy. The people of Europe thought that the French army would free from unpopular rulers and unjust laws before knowing about Napoleon Bonaparte. While later, the people of Europe started to hate Napoleon, and the discontent was turned to revolution in the different provinces of his empire. Then Napoleon began to lose because of he could not suppress the rebellion of the conquered people. By the way, this is a picture of Napoleon Bonaparte before he conquered of Russia. There are oral tradition, student. Napoleon had a phobia of cat, or he afraid a cat based on oral tradition. Students, what was the big mistake of Napoleon? Mistake of Napoleon. Napoleon conquered Russia on 1812. This was the main mistake of Napoleon Bonaparte. On 1812, Napoleon made the mistake of invading Russia. It was a big mistake for him. As the first, he was successful in capturing Moscow. He defeated the Russian army and captured Moscow. But later, he had failed to reckon on two things. The first thing is the spirit of Russian people. The Russians strongly organized themselves in defending the force of Napoleon Bonaparte. The other factor, the cold of Russian winter. The Russian winters kill most of the Napoleon soldiers. Then, finding it impossible to remain in Moscow, much of which in Russia had burned, then Napoleon began one of the most disastrous defeats in military history in Russia. The Russians cut off supplies of food, destroyed roads and bridges, and captured strategical areas. By the way, this number includes half of his soldiers lose in Russia. This led to the disaster defeat in the next battle, in the Battle of Leipzig and the Battle of Waterloo. Rebellion broke out among the Germans, while the French armies were defeated in Portugal and Spain. Then in 1813, at the Battle of Nations near Leipzig, in Germany, Napoleon suffered a disaster defeat. He was driven back to France and finally forced to surrender. In 1814, the victorious alliance sent Napoleon into exile into the island of Elba in the Mediterranean Sea. They restored the monarchy of Louis XVIII, the brother of Glutton King, on the throne of France, and turned to the problem of bringing peace to the European country. But the solution is not last long. But suddenly, the peacemakers were interrupted by stating rumors. Napoleon had escaped from Elba. He escaped from Elba and he was in France. He was marching on Paris. The French troops sent to capture Napoleon joined in his stead. To one of his old regents, he said that, mind you, student, by the way, Napoleon is a charismatic, versatile, energetic leader. He says that, here am I, you know me. If there is a soldier among you who wishes to shoot his emperor, he can do it. No one can do it because he had strong relations with his soldiers. Then his soldier accepted his idea. Then again he controlled France 400 days. King Louis XI fled the country. 400 days, March to June 1815, Napoleon was again in control of France. The master of France, mind you student, he was the master of France as well as the master of Europe. However, was no longer to master the whole part of Europe. At the time of Napoleon peak level, he bring social, economic and political changes to France and the rest of the world. His last decisive battle as the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium. What was the result of the Battle of Waterloo that took place on June 18, 1815, student? Battle of Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo, the Napoleon's enemy united to against him in 1815. The British led by the Duke of Wellington. The British was led by the Duke of Wellington. Prussia army under von Blücher defeated Napoleon. The United Force defeated him at the Battle of Waterloo on June 18, 1815 in Belgium. The Battle of Waterloo, student, mind you here, the Battle of Waterloo marked the end of Napoleon's reign and France's domination in Europe. Napoleon was sent to exile to St. Helena in the South Atlantic and died in 1821 at the age of 52. His body rests in the magnificent tomb in Paris. This is the tombs of Napoleon in Paris. What effects did Napoleon's rule have upon in France? While Napoleon in power, he had two main goals. The first main goal of Napoleon was to replace the confusion of revolution with law and order. Second one, to keep those achievements of the revolution which were due to the most Frenchmen. What were the contributions of Napoleon Bonaparte, student? The main contribution of Napoleon was he set up centralized, efficient government for France. Second one, taxes were collected properly and effectively. The roads, canals, bridges were built which helped to unite France. The other one, religious toleration. Religious toleration and abolition of serfdom. Napoleon abolished the serfdom and he introduced a new law. That law was known as Code of Napoleon. He revolutionized military organization by training and sponsoring. Code of Napoleon has had widely used in Belgium, Germany, Italy, and France. Napoleon also set up the whole system of public schools, elementary school, high school, military academy, university, all are under the supervision of central government. The Catholic Church became established as Church of France and established the long-lived contradict with the papacy. The church claimed that its former lands but regained ownership of the church buildings. The government also agreed to pay salaries for the religious leader or for the clergy. Generally, it's all about Napoleon Bonaparte. The last one, summary about Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1769 was his year of birth. Napoleon was born on 1769. In 1799, Napoleon overthrew the Directory. In 1802, he became the first consul. In 1804, he became the Emperor of France. In 1806, he declared a continental system, but this continental system defended the British government. In 1810, he expanded French Empire into vast territory. In 1812, he invaded Russia. By the way, in 1812, he invaded Russia. He made a big mistake. In 1813, he suffered a disastrous defeat at the Battle of Leipzig. After Russia, the next defeat of Napoleon at Leipzig. In 1814, Napoleon sent to Elba. In March 1815, he escaped from Elba and took power for 100 days. In July 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo, his enemy united and defeated him. This was the last battle place Napoleon and the Allies. In October 1815, he sent to the island of St. Helena. In 1821, he was died at St. Helena in the island of South Atlantic at the age of 52. At the age of 52, Napoleon Bonaparte was died. His body now rests in the magnificent tombs in Paris. Student, this all about the success and failures of Napoleon Bonaparte. Students, for the next time, answer the following question. The first question, mention the major contribution of Napoleon Bonaparte. Second, how did Napoleon came to power? How did Napoleon came to power? Third question, list the main factor for the downfall of Napoleon. The main factor for the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte. The fourth one, explain about the Battle of Waterloo. And the fifth one, how was the rule of Napoleon different from the rule of French monarchies? The last one, mention the strong and weak side of Napoleon. Student, this is all about what I have. Thank you very much. Stay at home. Bye bye.